Big problem, and the issue is that because they're so powerful, and because they're they have these big industries, there really has to be some type of compromise made to keep a role for them. Because see, from my standpoint, an ideal system would be one where you didn't have any insurance companies. But that's not very popular. That's not very popular at all. So they're going to have to find some role for them. So the issues that we're actually dealing with now is one of coverage. The health insurance strategy should be affordable and sustainable for society. That's another issue. You know, we don't want to move into a plan that, 5 years from now we say, oh, we can't afford it, it's costing too much. So we have to be very, conscious about how we do this, make sure it's something that we can continue and that we can promote. And fifth, these are the issues. And let me preface this talk to say that I'm a member of the National Physicians Alliance, and that's the group that I've been lobbying and working for, and that's how I was invited here from a meeting from the National Physicians Alliance. So these are our points that the National Physicians Alliance has proposed. And of course, the fifth point is that health insurance should enhance health and well-being by promoting access to high-quality care that is effective, efficient, safe, timely, patient-centered, and equitable. So these are the issues which we put on the table when we talk about a health insurance, universal, single-payer health care. Are there any questions for me before I continue?
Well, you made a statement that ideally this plan would represent a lower cost if everybody's covered. But don't you usually get the argument that it will represent a greater cost because of one, the government's involvement?
Well, no, that's not the argument I get, but let me tell you what the argument I get is. The argument that I get is that it'll be inefficient and there'll be a bureaucracy associated with it. I don't think that the argument is that it'll cost more because, of course some programs cost more, but according to the basic principles of a universal care or a single payer care, the whole concept is that by doing that, you actually reduce the amount of cost. And let me give you a reason why I say that. Let's take the issue of pharmaceuticals, for example. Well, you can drive across the bridge, in Buffalo, right across the street, and you can buy the drugs that are made here in America cheaper in Mexico or Canada than you can buy them at your local drugstore. That's you know what I'm talking about, and the whole plan, that whole Medicare Part D plan that they had. What is it, Medicare Part? Yeah, D, I think it is. And it is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't know if anyone has any elderly people on it.
Well, I am the elder.
Yeah, so you probably know, I don't know if you wanted the plan or not.
I'm the Medicare. Yeah, the donut hole.
That's right, yeah. So now my parents, both of them are older. My father's 91, my mother's 86, going on 87. And of course, they have very severe chronic diseases. My mother, she has Alzheimer's disease. My father, he's had 3 strokes, and he just fell and broke his hip. So he's in a rehab hospital now. Okay, so this is not anything that I'm talking to you that comes out of a book. This is something that I actually live every day, trying to negotiate them through a system. Now, of course, they're lower middle class people. My father worked in a factory for the steel company. And he gets a little pension, he saved his money all his life, because he was a Depression era person. So he didn't believe in spending his money. And then when it came time, for him to retire, what happened was, I tried to get him into a program called the LIFE program. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But the LIFE program is a daycare program. And they have them set up all over the country. And they come and they pick you up on a van and they take you to the daycare center and they have services there for you and then they bring you back at night. Well, it costs almost $4,000 a month for the daycare program, okay? And both my mother and him needed to be in the program. So it was almost like $7,000 for the 2 of them, okay? Now, even a person that saved money all their life Hey, there's no way in the world they can afford to pay $7,000 a month. Their little money, house, everything would have been gone in a few years. That type of money, you know, being spent out. So what I had to do was I had to put them in what they call the PACE program. I don't know how many people are familiar with PACE, okay? Okay, now, after I went through all of the paperwork for the PACE program, they told me that, you know, because you have to go through the state, you go through the welfare, you know, state welfare office. I had, you know, changed property, I had, you know, depleted bank accounts, you know, I done everything I could to make them fit. They told me that my father made $36 too much a month from his pension to qualify. $36. And the lady told me that if he made 1 penny more, they would have rejected it.
Right, that's how it works. So is that the end of the story?
End of the story, yeah. So I got my mother in the program, and because
I would sue. I mean, I would just be furious.
yeah, well, you know, that's what it was. But I mean, what happens is that the home attendants and the nurses and all that come to take care of my mother, and my father's there, so they're stuck to take care of him too.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, so if they fix food for her, you know, they can't leave him there with no food. So, you know, and if they clean the house, you know, it's for him too. See what I'm saying?
So basically, did you make them eligible for Medicaid? Is that what the PACE program is? Is that how?
That's right. That's
how you did
exactly
it?
correct. That is exactly correct, yes. So I made my mother eligible, but my father was not
It was
eligible.
not a.
That's right, because of his pension. $36 a month. Now what you gonna do with $36? And of course, I tried everything. I called the pension company and told them to lower it, you know, when they said they couldn't lower it, you know. I said, we'll give you the $36 back, just make it lower, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the question that I have about cost that I keep hearing and not quite sure how to answer the argument. I'm on Medicare, I have a supplemental, I'm very satisfied with Medicare, but I've also taken good care of myself. So people, what they're saying is, we're going to use, and the costs increase, the payments increase through my Social Security. In other words, when I get my Social Security, they take out more to pay for the Medicare costs, and that's basically how it works. But they keep on saying that by 2000, what is it, by 2000 whatever, there's not going to be enough money. Now, how do you counter that argument? Because what we're talking about, single payer, is very similar to Medicare. All these people have paid in. This comes from Social Security. You said people have to work. Well, I don't work for money. I do a lot of volunteer work, but I have Social Security for all the years that I did work.
Yes, it's a big argument, and I understand exactly what you're saying. Yes.
So help with that argument.
Okay.
So that's
now,
where the cost argument.
Well, it's worse than that. The actual situation is that the government has really already borrowed all of the money that was set aside in those Social Security plans and things like that. That money's already been borrowed. And that money's been used for the war, for a multitude of different issues. So the reality is that if the economy gets really bad, because what they're basically doing is hand to mouth. They take the money that the young people, you know, put in, and they give it directly to you. There's no reserve here. That reserve has been gone a long time. They got an IOU in the bank saying that the government owes them so many billions of dollars. You see what I'm saying? And what's happening is the population is shifting. So we have a lot more old people than we have young people. A lot more. And the old people are living longer.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so the equation doesn't make any sense. The answer to your question is the equation doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And it will crash soon.
So what do we say when people say, well, the same thing is going to happen to a single payer system?
This is what you can say. I mean, we're having faith in the government now. I don't know whether their faith is, you know, really we should have it or not. Because like I said, I know they're bankrupt, you know. And basically what they do is they're printing more money. And that's leading to inflation and fueling the recession. That's what they're doing. And they're printing more money. That's one of the reasons why we're having a big
how do these
recession.
countries, so maybe we need to look at how does Scandinavia do it, how does England do it, how does Sweden do it, because they're facing the same economic problems that we're facing.
Now, it'll